Here's our next project. We're going to continue with that idea of replacing the clipping path option from Photoshop, and we're going to try to do it in Pixlr. So in Pixlr, we're going to try to do an image like this. Now, I've been trying to look around on the internet for some different images that you can do in Pixlr, and I thought this was a pretty cool one. I found something where you're taking an image like, here it is, 2 slices of oranges, and replacing them with something. Now, this is again another kind of clipping mask possibility that that you would use. It's pretty typical. So there's really like 3 layers here. There's a fish. There's a this little kind of splash of water. I think this isn't necessarily seawater. It's some kind of just basically splash from a glass or something. And then I have the actual slices with a little background. So this is what it's going to look like. So the way I started this image was I had to find the images first. So I went onto Google, typed out goldfish over here, and then I have the water, as you can see. Pretty simple. Doesn't have much of a background, which is helpful. And then the actual slices. Okay, so I'm going to deal with each one of these things one at a time. So I'm going to start up here, most probably with the fish. So I'm going to have them out here. I'm going to go to my cutout mask area. I tend to use, if it's a simple one like this, the magic cutout. Click onto it, and it does a pretty good job. I can refine that later if I need it to be more refined. I'm going to take the eye off of it. Now here I am with this big splash here. So I know it's going to be a lot smaller eventually. So I'm going to try and get this down to a reasonable size. And then I'm going to go right back into the same thing. Here's the cutout tool. I'm going to use the magic wand, click onto it. And again, it did a half decent job. I got rid of most of the stuff. Okay, take the eye off of that one. Here I am with the big thing, the slices. So again, I don't know how well you can see this. It came from somewhere. It's got some kind of pattern on it. But again, we're just playing around with this stuff. So I'm going to use the magic wand, click onto it. And this one, it got eaten up a little bit more. But again, in Pixlr, I could have erased it, but I'm just going to keep this because I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm going to go in and use my eraser and erase some of the little bits here really quickly. So they're gone. Pretty simple. Now, before I start messing around with this one, I do want to have a background with this to see where I am. So I'm going to come over to my layers on this side, add a layer, empty. I'm going to put that down there below everything. So here I am on my layers, nothing on that layer. And I'm just going to go over, give it a gradient. I'm going to take what it has here. But remember, I can change them. If I want to go in there and change the stuff, I can. So this is basic kind of a look. Has this nice little gradient in the background. Maybe it's a little dark, but it's okay. So now I'm going to mess around with the actual lemons. Now, what you could do is just slowly go around with your magic wand and go through things. But I'm just going to use my eraser. And I usually, again, would use a clipping mask with this. If I was in Photoshop, I would have the shape figured out and I would have gotten rid of it. So I'm going to, not overthink this. I'm going to go in here, get rid of the majority of all this. Just cutting it away. Remember, if you think about this and all the projects we're doing, there are so many more advanced things you can do in Photoshop. It's like endless. For Pixlr, there is definitely, to me, a certain amount of things you can do with it. But it does show there's a lot of things you can do. All right, so again, because now I have that background, maybe I'll get this a little cleaner. Again, this is kind of the thing you start with. So there it is. Now I'm going to bring on the water. So again, I can rotate this thing depending on how big it is. And I can get this close if I wanted to the ends of this. Just trying to get it kind of close. Now at some point there's going to be a problem. You're like, I have to get this inside there. And if I click onto here, I can see the transparency. And sometimes that's a good thing to be able to do, is see where you are in that piece. So once I have it, I'm going to go in there, and then there's a an edit and a free distort. So I'm going to get in there, and I'm going to try to get this a little bit more onto that area. And then and go yes. And then once that thing's in there, notice it still isn't quite fitting with what we're doing here. It's in there, it's pretty good, but I'm probably gonna still play around with it a little bit more. But go in there with my eraser and erase that layer. Again, I've been playing around with this thing a little too much. I'll bring it down that low. And I'm just erasing, going through. Again, I'm going a little faster than I usually would. I take my time usually. I'm just kind of going around, getting rid of this. Right? And then you bring that opacity back up so you can see it. So it's sitting in there. Right, and then it's time for the fish. Now again, you could just really kind of get this hugged in there nicely. Try to do as much as you can with it. And then I'm going to bring the fish back in and just get them down in there to this area. Now, he's fine there, but I tend to bring the opacity down just a little bit to give him a little sense of transparency inside there. And that's kind of the look. And it's a fun little piece, but it's a clipping mask idea. Again, you know, the one I it took a little more time with this. I cleaned that up a little, went in there. I mean, it looks pretty good. Now, it doesn't have to be slices of oranges. It could be, if you wanted to, I was thinking it would be good like in a donut or something, like you know, an apple, a donut. I was thinking of a watch inside there. You could even have it inside, like cutting out that whole area. There's lots of good ones out there. Now these images, again, try not to allow them to get too tiny. Like try to keep them above that 1,000. So pieces like this, even if you went 2,000 wide by, you know, 1,500 wide, you know, or if you like them vertical or horizontal, it really depends on you. But don't let them get underneath that 1,000, because you can see as you're putting them into Google Sites that they can get a little bit small, and you don't want to have any of that. So you are going to do 2 of these. So you could follow this one very strictly, exactly the way I did it, because there's lots of those slice images out there you could find. Or you could do 2 very completely different ones, up to you. But I liked 2 different images that you're doing this this kind of a classic clipping mask concept with some type of a thing. This doesn't have to be this either. It could be a real ocean. It could be, you know, motor oil. It could be, there's so many different things that are liquid kind of in there, and it's just taking you away. It's kind of a surrealism kind of a piece where you're taking something, an ordinary everyday thing, and then you're adding something to it to give it a different look. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this one, and looking forward to see what you guys come up with, and we'll talk to you soon.